What is the CAGED system? Why should I even bother to learn the CAGED system? The CAGED system is a hidden, invisible framework, and it underlies absolutely everything on the guitar. Ultimately, it enables you to find the three elements of pitch that we are dealing with. We're dealing with chords, scales, and arpeggios. But what's more, it also helps us to find intervals. Now, I've not really spoken that much about intervals lately. They're in the book and they're on my YouTube channel. I do the interval seesaw and I talk about intervals, but this is a useful way to help you to find intervals. Also to find root notes for chords. It's brilliant for helping you to take your licks that you have and you love and play them in different voicings on the guitar. Let's get into what the CAGED system is. So chords, scales, arpeggios, notes, intervals, and octaves. So any notes as well. This is a cool little thing. I love showing people this because it really demonstrates the utility of the CAGED system. This is an extract of that CAGED system. These are called CAGED octaves, and I'm pulling these octaves out of the CAGED system shapes. Just watch this. This is a C. You might know that this is the A string. A, B, C. This is the C shape, and I can use this C shape to find this note on the B string here. I can take this note here, C, and by using a C-shaped octave, I can figure out that this one is as well. So this is a C-shaped octave, but what I can do is I can utilize the fact that the CAGED system is almost like an elevator. You remember the elevator triangles lesson? We could do the same thing here, and we can connect the CAGED shapes up. And that was every C on the fretboard. That is utilizing the CAGED system. Any note that you can think of. I'll start on the D string. And this is a D sharp. This is not a note that you're gonna go hunting around for ordinarily. But if I take this, and I've run out of frets. What I've done there is I've utilized the CAGED system to help me to elevate and find the same note anywhere on the fretboard. So this is one of the utilities of CAGED. It's absolutely fantastic. You must learn it. I will preface that actually. If you are an absolute beginner, the CAGED chord shapes are what you need to be learning. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. Just learning how to play those. Don't worry about moving it up the neck, and don't worry about being able to transfer it to arpeggios and scales and all that stuff. Your job as a beginner is to learn the chords in the first 3-4 frets. That's it. Just keep it very simple there, guys. Don't worry too much about moving up into the dusty end of the neck. Keep it very simple. Let me explain something why it's called the CAGED system. The whole idea of it being called the CAGED system comes from a guy called Joe Pass. He was a jazz guitarist, phenomenal jazz guitarist, expert, brilliant guy. It comes from the fact that we have 5 main chord shapes or chord forms or chord grips. And that is the C shape. And you know these as your cowboy chords if you know these already. And if you've got the book, then you know them already. So there's the C shape, then the A shape, then the G shape, then the E shape, and then the D shape. And that spells the acronym CAGED. C-A-G-E-D. C-A-G-E-D. Those 5 shapes. C chord. What I'm looking for in this C chord, on all my diagrams, in a red circle, generally put where the root note is. Look, there's the root note, there, and there's the root note there. An octave. That's an octave between those. This is why I call these CAGED octaves. Don't worry about trying to remember this. I'll write out this diagram. The C shape and the A shape share exactly the same root note. You see this third finger here? This is a C. If I put my first finger over there, now ordinarily when I talk about bar chording, I don't like to put the bar down first. I like to put the shape down first and put the bar down last. For this instance, so the purpose of being able to visualize, this is the root note here. Now if I bar across there, that's the same as putting a capo across. If I put a capo across there, not capo guys, I know you Americans like to say it wrong. So we got this capo on there. If I put an A chord on there, now you can see that this bit is useless. If you ever seen that picture of Boris Johnson playing the guitar like that, now you know why he's a numbskull. But if I take that off and I put this here as a C chord, but using an A shape. You can see that what I can get is I can get a C-shaped C, and then by using that same root note, I can get an A-shaped C. So there's two of the same chord. And what you'll notice is they sound a little bit different, because this one, it's got this high G in it, whereas the C shape, that finishes on this open E string. Notice with these two shapes is that the C shape and the A shape, they utilize 5 strings. So what we want is C shaped C, A shaped C. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next shape, which is a G shape. So we've got C, we've got an A shape, we're going to go to a G shape now. There's 2 grips for a G chord. This is what I call the Oasis grip, where we have the 3rd and the 4th fingers on. Or if I drop that pinky off and put my 3rd finger on there, you can put your pinky on, there's lots of different ways of playing this. Then this gives me what I call the Dylan G. It's very folky. If you think about it, the 2nd, 1st and the 3rd fingers are all fretting strings. However, the D string, the G string and the B string are open. If I was to look at those 3 notes behind there, you've essentially got an A shape. So this is an intersecting chord. What we need to do is when we play the A shape, these 3 notes from the A shape, those become what we use to bar a G shape. Now if you can see, this is my Dylan shaped G here. It's in an awkward position, and generally we don't play the chord like this anyhow. We play it the cool Hendrixy way. We'll leave out the E strings, we'll leave out those 2 notes there, we just put this business here. Yeah, so we could do it like that. Nothing to stop you from using these notes here as well, or playing it like this. That's still going to be a C chord, and you can see I've just added the root note. This is a C at the 8th fret here. I've just added that onto that shape there, which is really useful to know as well. If I want to turn it into a major 7, the 7th chord. Hopefully you see how this starts to tie into this CAGED system. So C shape, the A shape, moving up into the G shape. Something to notice is that this G shape goes across 6 strings. The G shape uses 6 strings. If I do that there, the G shape uses the same string as the E shape to get its root note, its lowest sound. So if I put my E shape here, that's going to be my next way of playing a C. What it does is really cool, because it means I can play a C chord in any position up the neck. There's the E shape. You see that's the E shape there, guys. I'll put it down here, switch my fingers over so it looks more familiar. Take that up there. And that is an E-shaped C. This is your most common bar chord shape that you are going to end up needing to learn. You don't always need to. You can cheat, you can use triads, you can use partial bar chords, it's fine. But you still need to visualize the full chord. So C shape, C, A shape C, G shape C, E shaped C. Then what we do is we jump over, use CAGED octaves. This becomes my root for my D shape, and this is really easy to know because the D shape doesn't share with any of the other chords. Just like the G shape and the E shape, they shared a root note here, and the C shape and the A shape shared a root note here. The D shape doesn't with anybody. So what you would do, and this is awful, it's not pleasant to play at first. What I tend to do is I put my middle finger, my ring finger and my pinky on to make the D shape, and then put the bar on last. And you can see that you get a D shape. Now if I play it like that, it'll look even more familiar. If I ditch the D string and just play the triad there, the 5R3 of that, then you can see I've got the chord there. So let's recap again. C shaped C, A shaped C, G shaped C, E shaped C, D shaped C. And the funny thing is, where the D shape intersects, it intersects with the C shape. If I put these 2 fingers on here, you can see, let me just move this, and then you can see the C shape is there. The double dots tell us we've started again. Does this make sense, guys? If it does, let me know in the comments if you're getting an understanding of how this works. We're just looking at the chords, just your major chords, using those grips that you know down here, C, A, G, E, D. That's where it comes from. Any chord you can think about, it has its origin in one of those 5 shapes. Let's carry on. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this is you can use this for learning scales. What I could do is I could play a C-shaped C major scale shape. So if I go like this, you can hear that. That went do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That keeps that within that shape. And like I say, I'm going to put a moment of silence in here. I absolutely understand this. Chord, scale, arpeggio. That's what we're looking at here. There is a connection between chords, scales, and arpeggios. So there's the chord. Here's the scale. And we'll do the arpeggio after I've finished all these scales. Here is the A shape. Now if I play the major scale, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not have any of these open strings, which this grip gives me. There is my C major scale, but that is coming from this A shape. Going up to my G shape, we get the C major scale again, but this is what I would call a G shape. It's weird because you start on the pinky. Once you start getting into your pentatonics, you already use that idea within your pentatonic shapes. So the pentatonic shapes are a CAGED system thing. Then what I've got here is, and this is the E-shaped octave. So I'm just playing that major scale in the E-shaped position. Here's the D shape. There is the D-shaped major. The fingering for the G chord, the chord G shape is this. There's 2. This one. If you play it like this, with your bar across there, you might find it a bit awkward. But generally, Daryl, I don't like this shape because I'm lazy. I like that. I play the intersect. Remember I said between the A shape and the G shape, we have these 3 common notes. The 5th fret on the D string, 5th fret on the G string, 5th fret on the B string. Those are the intersect. If you think about a Venn diagram, that is the bit that is common between those. You can hear those 3 notes, the same notes. What I do is I just play the A shape, and then I borrow that 3rd from the G shape, and then play it as a first inversion chord. Because it's Hendrixy, and I like that. It's a really useful grip. There is a bit of barring goes on, but that's okay. Like I said there, we've got those scales, and I played the D scale. Now this is a... There's the arpeggio there. The arpeggios, the major arpeggios, are root, 3rd and 5th. Now here's the thing with these shapes. Although there are 5 shapes that are all linked, there are 2 characteristics between them. The E, A and D shapes, those are 5R3 chords. So E shape, 5R3. A shape, 5R3 of the fingers that you're holding down, 5R3 on the D shape. However, the C shape and the G shape, those are more triadic. You can hear that's the root, 3rd, 5th, come by my lord. Whereas this one, the 5R. The UK people will get this. This is from Anglia TV. I seem to remember it after Tiz was Danger Mouse. That's a way to build that knowledge of what it sounds like in your head, which is super, super important. Looking at that C-shaped arpeggio, the whole thing about this CAGED system is that it is transposable. It moves up the neck. So if you think of it as like a slide ruler, it shifts from one position to the next. The C shape isn't the easiest shape. It's an easy shape to hold there like that, but when I want to play it here as a D chord, can you see that what I've done is I've put my bar on, because remember the bar is a head note or a capo. So now when I play this, I'm playing a D chord, but what shape am I using there, guys? Put that in the comments. Let me see that in the comments. Let's see if that comes through in the comments. But the sound is a D major chord, just to prove that, because I think I've got to convince you on some of these things. There is a C-shaped D, but here's a D-shaped D. You hear it's the same chord. The quality is a little bit different. There's the C shape. There's the D shape. Once we've gone through the whole acronym CAGED, we go back to C again. Look, there's the C shape. All right, and we went to that D shape there. If this is a D shape chord, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this as an arpeggio. Root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th. Why would I use a different shape? Francis, because of the voicing. If you think about it, you see this D here. sounds completely different from this D here, this D. So it's about matching the emotion. Is the 70s chord the A shape? You mean that thing there? So this utilizes an idea that's pretty cool. You can have a kind of a D shape, but this is partially a C shape. Look, there. So there's the C shape. I remember back in the day when I was learning some Beatles songs, and the Beatles had chords, and it looked like you had to play the chord with your pinky like this. And then I discovered that actually all you needed to do was play it with fingers 2, 3, and you play it almost like you're going to play a B minor. That's another lesson. I'm off on a tangent. Let me pull myself back together here. I was at this idea with the arpeggios. This gets into the arena of if you want to learn how to use these in your soloing, because when you solo, what you really want to be doing is you want to be blending licks, you want to be blending arpeggios, you want to be blending bits of scales, sequences of scales, a technique idea, a chord tone idea, and you're constantly shifting around these things to try and maintain interest when you're building a solo. One of the integral parts of learning your way around the fretboard and learning how to solo and use this for improvisation is, you can see it. There's a that's a D shape. All I'm doing is playing a D-shaped arpeggio there, but you can see that the D shape intersects with the C shape. Where the D shape ends, the C shape begins, and it's this note here. Look at your 5 R, 3 on your D shape, and the R, that is the beginning of your C shape. So you're just following that around. If I just go through this again, and I'm just going to dissect these shapes in their home position, in their root position down here as cowboy chords, and I'm just going to show you those octaves like I did right at the beginning of the lesson. If I take this C chord here, there's a C, and I know that this is a C here, because this is an octave. Well, this is really cool, if you know the Birdie song. The thing is, we can move this thing up the neck. Here's a use case. If you know your A string really well, which you should do because it's the musical alphabet, the 2 strings that you need to learn first, really, I think, are your E string and your A string. If you learn your E string, then you learn your thin E string by default, but then the next one should be the A string. You need this because if we played the E-shaped F chord, hopefully this makes sense. We call that the dreaded F. But if I take that bar off and slide it back, you can see it's really an E shape because it's one of the 5 caged chords. I need to know the names of the notes on my E string so that I can find out where the root note is and I can move that E-shaped chord up. So that's an F because the root note is there. If I move it up to the 3rd fret, that's a G. So if I put that E shape on, I get a G chord. If I move it up to the 5th fret, that's an A. Then that means I get my E-shaped chord on there. B flat, that's B, there's flat, there's a B flat. So we can do things with that E string, but we also need to know the A string because this is where we get the B chord, but more importantly, the B minor chord. Yeah, that one there uses an A minor shape. Look, I'll pull it down there and then you can see it's an A minor shape. So we need to learn this A string. Now, because we learnt the A string, if I put that octave shape on here and I go, all right, that's a C, that's a D, then what I'm going to do, I transfer that over onto my B string. It's a hack, if you will. That's a D, that's a D. Hang on, I'll just move it up. That's an E, there's an E. F, G, A, and an A. Any note that you can think of, oh, hang on, that's E, that's F sharp. F sharp is going to be here. Which is great because now you know where that F sharp is. If you're playing something in an F sharp blues, now you know where to put it. You know where to find it. All I did was play part of that blues scale. That explains the C-shaped arpeggio. The A-shaped arpeggio, bit more tricky. You can look at the triad master sheet that's in the file section, and that has these patterns in there, but there's a few ways we can play this, and it is a kind of a study in and of itself. If I want to, I could go root, 3rd, and then what I do is I take the 5R3 part of the shape, and then I go to the 5, and then I go to the root up here. Or I can build it like this. That's the A-shaped arpeggio. The G-shaped arpeggio, a little bit tricky. And that's all I'm playing there. But you might not want to use all of the shape. You might just want to use part of it. Just 3 notes or 4 notes. The E-shaped arpeggio, play it like that. This is really borrowing a bit from the G shape there, thinking of it as a proper E-shaped arpeggio. Now, I've got a choice here. I can slide up into my D-shaped arpeggio. This is the great thing, because I know my E shape's here and I know my D shape's here. Those all pull in together. That's the E-shaped arpeggio, the D-shaped arpeggio. It's a nice one to play, and that's it. Allman Brothers. They play a D sus4 shape there. It's in an A. And the easy way to find these as well is you can go D, move it up a whole step, E and F are next door to each other. Move it up a whole step, you get G. Move up a step, you get A. Move up a step, you get B and C are neighbours. Bacon, crispy. Yeah, so you can use that to help you to find those. So you're in the key of G. That's the utility. We're doing it on the C shape, octave. The A-shaped octave, I'm pulling it from the A string to the G string. And that moves up the neck as well. There's the A-shaped octave. There's a B as the A-shaped octave, and that moves up. And just like we did with the C shape, if you don't know the names of the notes on your G string, then this is how you find them. You just use your A-shaped octave to find them. That's how the A-shaped octave works. The G shape, a bit more involved. We've got a G here. Because we've got 6 strings, we've got an open G here. And we've also got a G here as well. So we've got 3 Gs that we can have. We've got 2 octaves there. That's 2 octave distance. The useful one I find is this one. That little shape there. Now, if you haven't seen the video on my YouTube channel, these 7 shapes, I did a video about that not so long since. Have a look at that. The same thing's going to apply with the E shape, and then we get the D shape. The D shape is the same as the G shape. You see where it all comes in? The CAGED thing, it's a completely movable framework. If I wanted to take this F, because one of the things that I find that people think is generally just seen as being this, and it isn't. What shape is that? That's an E shape. So what shape comes next in the acronym CAGED? C, A, G, E, D. It's going to be a D shape that comes next. The cool thing is I can use my octaves there. That's an F there, and I know by jumping up there, that's going to be the root note, and it's on my D string. Remember what I said about the D shape? It doesn't share. This is an F chord. You're going, hang on, Ricky, that doesn't compute because that looks like a D shape, and it is a D shape. Because what we're doing is we're utilising the CAGED system here, guys. So I'm going to play it that way for comfort. I can even put my thumb over the top to double down on that third there. Turn it into a slash chord. You see this, how all this stuff works into each other. Now remember what I said about the D shape? 5 that root there becomes the root note for the C shape. It's the intersect between the D and the C shape again. So let me just switcheroo my fingers around and then put my bar there. There's an F chord. And Francis actually asked why you would want to do this as well. Look, if I take my middle finger off there, I get a really lovely F major 7 chord there, look. And sometimes these shapes, these 5 shapes, they do morph completely out of the territory of even looking like their original shape. You look at a shape and you think, I know that's from an E chord, and it doesn't look like an E chord. Am I right to suggest that CAGED is used only to interpret the song you have rather than follow the tab or musical notes but still using the original? When I think of how to do songs, I think there's 2 ways to do them. You do them verbatim, as recorded. People don't like you to mess with the original, especially if it is one one of those sacred songs. There are sacred songs that you are not allowed to do your own rendition of. But I think there should be no sacred songs out there, no holy cows. If you have a different interpretation that you want to put on a song, that's your right and your privilege. And I would say on that aspect, the chords you choose are completely up to you. It's not just to interpret the song. My thinking behind being able to transpose songs into whatever key is suitable, it's all about accommodating the singer and where their vocal range sits, where it's easy for them. Because what they have is they have a threshold that they can sing with comfortably. This is called the tessitura, and you might be a singer yourself, and if you are, then I often think that this is one of the reasons people think they can't sing, because they can't sing the song in the original pitch of the song. But if they change the pitch of the song, their threshold, their range might be able to sit within it, and they may be able to do a rendition. Scan through the song and you see what chords you have. What that's going to do is it's going to inform you of which shapes you need to play. And if you do that, you might find that you can actually transpose it to a key, put a capo on and play the whole thing without playing a bar chord. That's if you don't want to play bar chords. If you want to play bar chords, that's fine. I get my students to play Hotel California with cowboy chords, but then I challenge them to be able to play them completely, the whole song, just as E and A shaped bar chords, minor and majors. That's a good drill, and it gives you something specific to work on. Do that as homework. So we've got chord scales, we've got arpeggios, notes, like I did at the beginning. I went like this. I went, okay, there's a G. There's a G, an open G there. All I'm doing is I'm just following those. All those are G notes, but that's every G note on the fretboard. This is completely transposable. If I wanted this G, so say I've got this, I want a blues in G, and this is my lick. Very simple. This is the minor blues scale. And landing on the root note there. What I can do is I go, hang on, I'm on another root note here. Everything I did there, I can repeat again. Compensate because the G to the B string, we've got that kink in the tuning. And I'm back on my root note again. What I did is I just transposed that whole idea there. This could be any of your survival licks. It's what I call the Chuck Berry zone. Now I know that this note here is a D. I started here. I know that I'm bending that up. That's on the G string. That could be inside the G-shaped octave or the A-shape there. That's the same lick in a different octave. Not the most pleasant place to play it, but it's the same lick. Same lick. So what I can do is I can transfer one idea, one musical motif, a lick or a melody or anything in these different positions because I use these caged octaves. And I use the caged octaves to find notes. Like I say, we can use it to find root notes, which is the most obvious thing, but we can use it to find other notes, not just root notes. Let's have a look at how that might work. We've got the D major chord here. What I want to do is if I take this root note and I flatten it one, that's the root, which is also 8, which is because it's an octave. 1 less than 8 is 7. So there's my major 7. Now if I play that across there, I get this lovely D major 7 chord. My C shape now. If I take the same finger off, I've got that voicing again, that major 7 voicing. You see how that works? That's where I'll find it on the A string. So I can play it in this voicing now. And just by transferring it here. There's my C shape, part of my C shape, but I'm also starting to go into the A shape territory here. Now I've spotted that, then I can see that's going to be in the A shape. So it's helping me to find out intervals in other chord shapes there. So in scales, the box one of your minor pentatonic that we all know and love, and I'm going to do this in A minor because we all know and love it in that position. It's the beginner guitarist's position. That's where it lives. That's where we're playing it. Here's the cool thing. There's the pentatonic, and that's where I put that flat 5. that turns the whole thing into a minor blues scale. We don't need to learn another whole bunch of patterns. We just add caged octaves intervals to the shapes. So if we go like this, root, flat third, fourth, flat 5, 5, flat 7, root. Because that's on the A string, if I go up 2, over 2 to play the A-shaped octave, now I've discovered where that flat 5 lives on my G string. Remember, I've got 5 and 7 here, and that's where it's going to live. That automatically adds more tension and more colour to that scale, which is why it's a cool scale that you need to learn to play. We could do that with the flat 5, but we could do that with any interval. Say you want to borrow a note that you know is going to sound nice. If you look at that cycle of thirds lesson, the reason the cycle of thirds is important is because as you progress around the cycle of thirds, what you are doing is you are extending your chord voice from being a triad into a 7th chord, into a 9th chord, into 11th chord, and a 13th chord. What it's telling you is how to get all of those other colours into your chords. Say I wanted to add the 9, and because the 9, the 11, and the 13, they're really nice colours. You've got to be careful with them. The 11 especially, because it's really a 4th, and you've got to think, oh, hang on, that might clash with my 3rd. Let's add the 9. Also known as a 2nd. If you're not sure about that, it's in the book. This one, this lesson here, page 28. You can see how that whole thing works. This is just the circle of thirds, and this is why I call it the circle of thirds, because if I said to you, oh yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to take a C major scale and extend it from the simple octave into the compound octave and to find the upper extensions and how we can use the 7th as a bridging device. Cycle of thirds is easier, isn't it? Tertian scale. The thing to think about it is that once you've gone through it, you've gone root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. That's 7 notes. You've used all the notes of the parent scale as well. So you're getting all the colours in there as well. It's really useful, especially when if you want to superimpose an E minor over a G. What's going on there? You end up getting interesting flavours. But I digress. We've got the root. Remember I said that the 2nd is also the same as the 9th. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put that note in. We're just going to add that extra note. But what I want to do is I want to use my CAGED system, octaves, to help me to find where I'm going to play that. Remember, we're still playing this basic. Now this note appears in a minor, this appears in Dorian mode, and it also appears in Aeolian, which is the natural minor. So we go, so there, okay, look, there it is as a G shape. I jump. Now I know where it lives. And just add in that one extra note. Gives me so much more colour. This is how you do this. These are ingredients. You're cooking with sound. We could take any of these notes. Let's have a look at another note. You could do it with any scale, not just this. I'm going to play the major pentatonic. The major pentatonic scale, it goes like this. This is the root, 2nd, 3rd, 5th. Then we get the 6th, and then we get the root again. You might know it as the main hook for My Guild. What we can do is we can add another note to that, and we can really mess it up if we want to, or we can make it really juicy. I'm going to add the sharp 4, which I'm borrowing from Lydian. Let me just put that in there and you can have a listen. It's got a lot of tension. I'll play it as a scale. When I played that major 7 chord, did you feel how that kind of disappeared, all that tension? Because I've got that sharp 4 there, I want to apply it to the rest of my major pentatonic. And that's where it lives. Highlight that sharp 4 there. Lives there as well. So I can go. You can find these notes on the fly. The key to this is learning the 5R3 thing, those triad shapes. I played this here. I know that I've got 5R3. If I want to know where the sharp 4 is, there's the 4, there's the sharp 4. That's part of this lesson. The chord tone connection one, that's all in that one. Tells you about that in the interval seesaw. So you can see that I can get that one there. So I'm just going to play the 5R3. Yeah, I know it's there, know it's there. I know all the positions that it's available just by using that caged octave framework. What we do is we take these major shapes, and then the next thing we have to do is we have to modify them. Okay guys, I will see you in a future lesson. Thanks for coming along today, it really means a lot, and I'll see you soon. Take care, bye. Hey up guys, if you'd like to support my work on YouTube, then please consider purchasing a copy of my book. The book is a compilation of PDFs from all the aha and lightbulb moment lessons that you can find here on my YouTube channel, but all in one convenient place. It's available in 3 formats: a spiral bound copy, a paperback, but if you prefer an ebook for instant download, then you can grab that by clicking the link in this video or going to rickysguitar.com/store to grab your copy.